As an update to the current situation related with coronavirus in Portugal, I'm afraid I have bad news. Essentially, the number of infection cases has risen to 331. In just one day, we went from 245 to 331, and I regret to inform that we have also confirmed the existence of one death related with coronavirus. If you've seen my previous videos regarding this subject, you'll understand that this comes as no surprise to me, because it was obvious that the number of cases were going to appear and increase because nothing was being done to prevent them. The government continued to put their heads in the sand and tried to dismiss the issue for as long as they could. And even today they are clearly controlling the information because these numbers are still quite low, and they will continue to increase because no measures have been really taken to prevent more infection cases. They said they would now start applying those measures, but in actual fact they are not being applied, because we know that Spanish people, for example, are entering Portugal by means of our borders and no one is controlling them. No one is restricting their entrance into our country. No one is making checks. How is it possible to avoid infection cases? It's not. The government is doing absolutely nothing. They are just spreading propaganda. And to make things worse, we have the president that has essentially disappeared. He has quarantined himself and hasn't appeared for almost 2 weeks, I guess. He essentially resigned from being president, which is hilarious, I guess, because at the time that we need the leaders that were elected to be the leaders, they just disappear. He only reappeared yesterday by means of a video that he seems to have recorded on his smartphone to inform the public that he's going to schedule a state council meeting on Wednesday to determine if we should go from the alert status that we are now into emergency status. And if you knew the composition of this state council, you would laugh, because we are talking about elites, basically people connected with the media, the prime minister, a guy that was the leader of the left bloc, you know, very, very knowledgeable people. This is how things are happening in this country. And when you realize that the virus has clearly not hit the peak infection rate in Portugal, you will start wondering, are we really ready for what's coming? We are clearly not ready now when the virus has not peaked. And if we go back to data concerning critical care beds in Europe, we also see that Portugal was the worst of all countries in Europe. We essentially have the least amount of critical care beds than any other country in Europe per 100,000 inhabitants. This is how great we are at handling any sort of situation that requires critical care beds, which this virus outbreak could actually require. And even if you assume that something has improved after this data was published, which is doubtful, because in the past 4 years the left and the far left have actually applied the biggest cuts to the national health system that we have ever seen. And so I highly doubt that things have improved. But even assuming that something has improved, it hasn't improved enough to handle these cases, these outbreak cases, these pandemics, because right now, when the virus has not peaked, we are clearly not ready. And the government and the president have done absolutely nothing to minimize the situation. And if you think this is already reasons enough to consider that Portugal is a non-country, a non-state run by idiots, which it is, but we still have to deal with the far left, specifically the left bloc that recently made a publication on their site. And if I wasn't going to show the publication to you, I would ask you, what do you think that the far leftists would have to say about the current situation in Portugal? What do you think that these ideologically motivated people that have absolutely no brains, no rationale, nothing, what do you think that they would talk about? Probably something about coronavirus, but what specifically? What do you think it would be? So this is what they published on their website, and roughly translating, it's this. The way that the world has been fighting coronavirus should give us hope that we are able to face the climate crisis. That's right, the left bloc, the far left, the nut jobs that just want identity politics and all the most radical stuff, the people that chant on the streets for the death of Bolsonaro, the president of Brazil. So how do these people even talk about the coronavirus? They don't offer any possible solution for our current problems, no. But I'm sure you never thought that they would make a connection between coronavirus and the so-called climate crisis. But they did. This is what we have to deal in Portugal. This is the current reality. And I don't know what else I can say. This country has no future with this government, with this president, and with these politicians that essentially constitute 99% of the Portuguese parliament. We are doomed, basically. I'm sorry. Today's update is very doom and gloom, but it's the reality. I mean, what more can I say? So I really hope that in the future I have better news, and so I'll see you next time.